He didn't even have a name. The word Epictetus isn't a human identity. In ancient Greek, it translates to one thing: acquired property. He was born around 55 AD at the absolute bottom of the human hierarchy, a slave in the Roman Empire, legally classified as a talking tool. He had no rights, no money, no voice. Yet, this nameless piece of property built a psychological weapon so indestructible that the Emperor of Rome used it to rule the world. 2,000 years later, fighter pilots used it to survive torture camps. To understand his power, you have to look at the monster who owned him. His master was Epictetus. This was not a lowly farmer. Epictetus was the private secretary to Emperor Nero. He was one of the wealthiest, most politically dangerous men in Rome. He owned massive villa gardens on the Esquiline Hill. When Nero's empire collapsed, the emperor fled in disguise to a villa. Nero was too cowardly to kill himself. It was Epictetus who held the dagger. He helped drive it into the emperor's throat. An assassin, a kingmaker. But here is the sickest irony of all. Epictetus used to be a slave himself. He knew exactly what the chains felt like. He knew the humiliation, and he still chose to put them on Epictetus. This was Epictetus's daily reality. Pure, unpredictable, absolute power. Living under a man like that means violence can happen at any second. According to the ancient writer Celsus, the day came when Epictetus decided to torture his property. He grabbed Epictetus by the leg. He started twisting. He applied pressure. He wanted the slave to scream. He wanted him to beg. He wanted total submission. Epictetus didn't blink. He looked the assassin dead in the eye and stated a biological fact. "You are going to break my leg." The bone shattered. The physical agony would have been blinding. But Epictetus didn't pass out. He didn't wail. He looked at his ruined limb. He looked at the master who just crippled him for life. And he smiled. "Did I not tell you that you would break it?" That smile destroyed his master. Epictetus realized he had lost. He could shatter the man's bones. He owned his flesh, but he had absolutely zero access to his mind. In that fraction of a second, Epictetus discovered a glitch in the human operating system. He realized the human experience is split into two brutal categories: things you control and things you don't. He called it the dichotomy of control. Listen to his exact words. Things in our control are opinion, pursuit, desire, aversion. Things not in our control are body, property, reputation, command. It is that simple. Your body, not yours. A disease, an accident, or a master can take it. Your money, not yours. The market can wipe it out. Your reputation, just noise in other people's heads. He called all of these things slavish, weak, belonging to others. But your mind, how you react to the pain, that is yours. Lameness is a hindrance to the leg, he said, but not to your ability to choose. Epictetus wasn't just a resilient victim. He was a tactician. He knew how Rome worked. An educated slave was worth more money than a dumb one. So he went to the man who broke his leg with a business proposal. He asked for permission to study under Musonius Rufus, the greatest Stoic philosopher of the era, the Roman Socrates. Epictetus looked at the market value. He agreed out of pure greed. Epictetus weaponized his master's greed to fund his own mental liberation. In 68 AD, Nero was dead. The empire shifted. Epictetus finally got his freedom. But the world wasn't done testing him. By 90 AD, a new emperor took power, Domitian. Domitian hated Stoic philosophers. They made people too brave. They made citizens too hard to control. So, Domitian banished every single philosopher from Rome. Epictetus lost his home. He lost his city. How did he react? He didn't. It was an external event. Out of his control. He packed his bags, which consisted of a straw mat and a cheap clay oil lamp. He walked to Nicopolis in Greece, and he simply started over. He opened a new school. Here is the craziest fact about Epictetus. He never wrote a single word down. No books, no scrolls, no essays. He just spoke. He possessed such a magnetic, overwhelming presence that people were paralyzed by him. One of his students, a man named Arrian, realized this genius would be lost to history. So Arrian feverishly took notes on everything Epictetus said. Those notes became the discourses and the Enchiridion, the handbook, a manual for an unbreakable mind. Because Epictetus didn't write books, his ideas had to survive on pure utility. They operated like a virus. They climbed the ladder of power. Decades after Epictetus died, a teenage boy in Rome was handed a copy of Arrian's notes. That boy was Marcus Aurelius. When Marcus grew up to become Emperor of Rome, the most powerful human on the planet, he faced wars, plagues, and betrayal. How did he survive the pressure? He didn't turn to military manuals. He opened his private diary, the Meditations, and he quoted the crippled slave. It is not things that disturb us, but our judgment about things. Marcus borrowed that directly from Epictetus. The man who owned the world used the survival tactics of a man who owned nothing. After Epictetus died, that cheap clay oil lamp he owned, an admirer bought it for 3,000 drachmae, a fortune, just to own a piece of the unbreakable man. This isn't just ancient history. This is a weapon used in modern warfare. September 9, 1965. U.S. Navy pilot James Stockdale is flying a combat mission over North Vietnam. His plane gets ripped apart by anti-aircraft fire. It goes down in flames. Stockdale ejects. He is parachuting down into a village. He sees the soldiers waiting for him. He knows exactly what is about to happen. Torture. Isolation. Hell. As he drifts downward, completely powerless to stop it, he whispers one sentence to himself. I am leaving the world of technology and entering the world of Epictetus. Stockdale spent 7.5 years in a prisoner of war camp. His legs were locked in heavy irons. He was beaten. He was kept in darkness. He survived because he memorized the Roman slave's handbook. His captors could break his body, just like Epictetus broke Epictetus. But they could never touch his mind. It goes even deeper. If you go to therapy today, you will likely experience CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. The fathers of CBT, Albert Ellis and Aaron Beck, didn't invent it from scratch. Ellis literally stated that emotional problems aren't caused by external events, but by our irrational beliefs about them. Beck wrote that the origins of cognitive therapy trace straight back to Stoic philosophy. Modern psychology is just the science of Epictetus repackaged. Now look at the modern world. We live in the most comfortable, automated period in human history. Yet, people break down over an unkind email, a delayed flight, a negative comment online. We hand the remote control to our emotions over to total strangers. We let the weather, the economy, and the news dictate our internal state. Epictetus ruins your excuses. You think you have it hard? You think the world hasn't given you the right opportunities? Try being born nameless, legally classified as property. Try having your leg deliberately snapped in half for someone else's amusement, and then smiling at the man who did it. You cannot control the economy. You cannot control what people think of you. You cannot control sickness or accidents. If you tie your happiness to those things, you will always be a slave. The only thing you own is the gap between an event happening to you and how you choose to respond. In that gap is your absolute freedom. The world will inevitably try to break your leg. It will test you. The only question that matters is, will you scream? Or will you look the world in the eye and laugh at the pain?